Press conference is held ahead of the opening of the 12th National People's Congress on Tuesday, announcing the meeting's agenda. At least 50 people have been killed and 150 others wounded as a suspected suicide bomber attacks Shiite Muslims in Karachi. Kenyans prepare to vote in the country's general election with warnings some people are planning to harass the public. And the talks between Greece and its international creditors continue, with creditors focusing on the possibility of public sector layoffs. Hello there, welcome to News Hour on CCTV News. Live from Beijing, I'm Pandong. The preliminary meeting of the first plenary session of the MPC 12th National People's Congress has been held. It has elected a Presidium and Secretary General for the 12th MPC. It has also examined and approved for the meeting's agenda. After the plenary meeting, the Presidium held its first meeting. Zhang Dejiang, Liu Yingshan, Li Jianguo, Wang Shengjun, Chen Zhangzhi and Yang Junqi have been elected Executive Chairman of the Presidium. A press conference for the first session of the 12th National People's Congress has been held at Great Hall of the People in Beijing this morning. Newly appointed MPC spokeswoman Fu Ying has met the press and briefed them on the lineup of this year's MPC deputies. Fu Ying outlined the conference agenda. She says the first session of the 12th MPC National Committee has finished its plenary meeting and the first Presidium's meeting. This year's conference is scheduled to open on Tuesday morning at Great Hall of the People. It will last 12.5 days and end on the morning of March the 17th. The deadline for delivering motions is at noon on March the 11th. By Monday, Fu Ying says around 3,000 journalists from around the globe have registered at Media Center. Regarding China's defense policy and expenditure, the MPC spokeswoman says that China's defense policy is peaceful and defensive.
Military expenditure is a question that is often raised. China is such a large country. If it cannot protect itself, it won't be any good to the international community. There are many lessons that a country with a weak national defense will be bullied. Chinese people understand this very well. So we need a stable national defense. A China with a stronger national defense will help maintain the peace in Asia as well as the world. China sticks to building a peaceful national defense. It is a defensive one. The building of the national defense in China is to protect itself, to protect safety, and is not a threat to other countries. China's national defense policy has also contributed to the peace in the region.
More migrant workers and women as well as young people have been elected to the 12th National People's Congress, which is China's top legislature. Meanwhile, few government and party officials have won places.
Altogether, 2,987 deputies have been elected to the 12th MPC. The total number stays the same as the 11th MPC, but 2/3 of the deputies were elected for the first time. 1,027 deputies were re-elected. This accounts for 34.38% of the total. Moreover, 1,042 or 34.88% of the deputies are government officials and leading party cadres, down about 7 percentage points from the 11th MPC. 610 professionals are among the deputies, up 1.2 percentage points from the previous MPC. A total of 401 workers and farmers have been elected deputies, up 5.18 percentage points from the 11th MPC. The number of female deputies have risen to 699, accounting for 23.4% of the total. About 83% of the deputies are graduates of junior college or higher.
China's top lawmaking body has examined and approved batches of legal motions in the past 5 years. The work provides an effective guarantee for maintaining the order of China's market economy and social order. The 11th MPC and its standing committee examined 93 draft laws from 2008 to 2012. 86 of them were approved. The laws closely related to ordinary people's life, including social insurance law, tort liability law, and election law, and the public has been able to participate in the legislation process through various channels. The 11th MPC Standing Committee has opened 48 draft laws for public opinion during its term in office. More than 300,000 people contributed millions of opinions promoting socialist democracy and scientific legislation. The current legal system is composed of about 240 laws, 700 administrative regulations, and 8,600 local regulations. MPC deputies have the right to submit motions and a proposal to ensure that the government is running in accordance with the will of the people. For delegates from Ningxia Hui Autonomous Region, what they care about is solving the water shortage problem. Su Yuting reports.
This is the central part of Ningxia Hui Autonomous Region. It is one of China's most drought-stricken areas. Lots of rural locals here have inadequate access to drinking water. In recent years, NPC deputies from Ningxia Hui Autonomous Region submitted several proposals on water shortage, and the national legislature asked related ministries to help tackle those problems. Lawmakers have been pushing forward the implementation of a water pipeline construction project. They conduct field studies, collect public opinions, and submit motions. Through their efforts, a drip irrigation system has been built in the area, making it an efficient way to use water while saving labor. Now, planting and irrigation are becoming easier for farmers. But most importantly, clean tap water is accessible to locals. For Wang Ruilian, the water issue is no longer a pain.
I'm glad that we now have tap water. I've realized my biggest dream.
The villagers have said farewell to the hard times when they could not find enough water to drink. But problems still exist. For those who live in poverty, the price of paying to connect the neighborhood pipeline to their individual homes is still too costly for them to afford. Local government is thinking about providing a subsidy to support the poor. For the delegation from the Ningxia Hui Autonomous Region, promoting the water conservation irrigation system will top the agenda of this year's discussion. Su Yuting, CCTV.
This year, youngsters born in the 1990s have been involved in the local people's congresses and have handed in their proposals. Wang Chen from Beijing Normal University submitted to her local People's Congress proposals which focused on public housing projects and educated young people who move in search for work. Yang Jing in the city of Guangzhou, a migrant worker herself, is striving for the rights of the migrant population, including better education for their children. Another young deputy, Sun Xiaolei, is a senior student at Fudan University in Shanghai. He sought public opinion via Weibo, a leading Chinese social media website, and interacted with them online to gather their opinions. A lot of these young deputies are paying close attention to China's democratic construction. Many hope these young people can not only bring vitality but also effort to the country's development. CCTV News has begun a special interactive activity during the MPC and CPPCC sessions on Sina Weibo, which is China's leading social media website. At no other time in history have the Chinese people so openly declared their dreams. Millions inside China are nurturing their China dream, while millions outside of China are fascinated by life in China. You can share your China dream with the world and inspire others online. So please join us by following at CCTV News on Sina Weibo with double hashtag China Dream. Again, it's double hashtag China Dream. You can also upload your video and text us about your own China story to our website, english.cntv.cn. We will bring you more stories on the two sessions in today's program, including exclusive interviews with the heavyweight figures and hot topics on the agenda. So please stay tuned to NewsHour. But for now, let's head to other news. At least 50 people have been killed and 150 others wounded as a suspected suicide bomber attacked Shiite Muslims in Karachi. And Kenyans prepare to vote in the country's general election with warnings that some people are planning to harass the public. Turning to Pakistan now, death toll of the blast in Karachi on Sunday has risen to 50. The bomb exploded outside a Shiite mosque as people were leaving evening prayers. A senior government official said some people might still be trapped in the rubble of buildings that collapsed in the bombing. Initial reports suggest the bomb was rigged to a motorcycle, although a survey of the damage indicates there could have been additional explosives planted at the scene. Both President Asif Ali Zardari and the Prime Minister condemned the blast and directed hospital administrations to provide the best possible medical care. The governor of Sindh province also condemned the blast and announced a one-day mourning in the province on Monday. He said the national flag would fly at half-mast at all state-owned buildings across the province on the day of mourning. So far, no one has claimed responsibility for the attack. For the very latest on the blast, let's talk to our correspondent Daniel Han in Islamabad. Hello, Daniel. Update us on the attack. Has any group claimed the responsibility?
Well, not as yet. Like you said, no one has actually taken the responsibility. No official stance has come from the government saying that whether any banned outfit has taken any responsibility. But we know that observers are claiming that the Lashkar-e-Jhanvi has been behind the killings of Shiite Muslims. In the recent months, we've been witnessing heavy bomb blasts in the southwestern city of Quetta, in which two bomb blasts took place in the community where Shiite Muslims are heavily populated. So the observers say that Lashkar-e-Jhanvi might be behind yesterday's attack, but we know that no one has come forward and taken the responsibility, whereas we know that the death toll has now risen to 50, and the medical authorities are saying that about 150 other people are injured, and quite a few of them are in very critical condition. And also we know that women and children are also among the dead and injured. So there at least 1 week's mourning has been announced by the Muttahida Qawmi Movement Party, which is the leading political party in the city of Karachi. And the Pakistani flag is also going to be flying at half-mast. So today, no institution, schools and banks have all been closed. There is no public transport that is on the road. Everything has been halted as far as life in Karachi is concerned. Yes.
Daniel, there's an increasing number of attacks targeting Shiite Muslims in Pakistan. What measures has the government taken to protect the people?
Well, yes, the government has now steadily since the last 2 months, they have increased security as far as the Shiite Muslim population is located in the city of Quetta and now in Karachi. And now they've also taken measures in other parts of the country, in Lahore city, in Multan, as well as in the federal capital, Islamabad, wherever the Shiite Muslim, because they live in one community in the different sectors. So security has been beefed up as far as their residential areas are concerned, and they've been asked not to come out in processions. Whereas we are looking at processions and protests being taken out against the government, and these protests have been taken out since these Shiite Muslims, especially the Hazaras, have been targeted in Quetta. So protests are still underway today as we speak, but they have been warned by the government and the law enforcement agencies not to do so because they might become a target once again. So security has been beefed up, and extra measures are also being taken by the government. The Prime Minister of Pakistan, Raja Pervez Ashraf, as well as the President of Pakistan, they have taken notice, and investigations are underway, and they are saying that they are going to terminate extremism and terrorism from this region, and this is what the stance of the government is. Yes.
Thank you very much indeed. Our correspondent Daniel Han in Islamabad. Turning to China, an explosion has hit an underground passage in front of a shopping mall in the northeastern city of Shenyang. A bus was nearby when the accident happened at about 9 a.m. Monday morning. It's not known how many people may have been injured. According to residents, the shock wave could be felt about a kilometer away. The identities of last 3 Hong Kong tourists who died in a balloon crash in the Egyptian city of Luxor have been confirmed through DNA tests. Earlier, relatives identified the other 6 victims at a hospital. The authorities are now preparing the paperwork for all the victims. Last Saturday, relatives of the Hong Kong victims gathered at the crash site for a memorial service. The owner of the land said the site would remain a memorial and relatives were welcome to visit at any time. The Chinese ambassador to Egypt says the bodies will be transported to Hong Kong as soon as possible. Egyptian officials say they will inform the Chinese side once the results of the investigation comes out.
We will send the bodies of the 9 victims back to Hong Kong as soon as we can. At the same time, we will push the Egyptian side to investigate the reasons behind the accident. We will also make sure that the victims will get proper compensation.
This issue of compensation will be raised with the company in charge, and we will get back to the embassy to report it back to China. Thank you. We are making an investigation, and once we get the investigation, if there is any wrongdoing, set assured that they will be penalized.
Still in Egypt, 1 Chinese tourist was killed and 3 others injured when a minibus overturned on Saturday. The accident came just days after the balloon crash that killed 19 people, including 9 Chinese citizens. Our reporter has spoken exclusively to Egypt's Minister of Tourism. He says the ministry has stepped up efforts to ensure the tourists' safety.
We held several meetings yesterday to talk about the safety of balloons, road travel, and Red Sea diving. They're all popular tourist programs. Accidents sometimes happen, and some are even fatal. So we have decided to check every detail of that to ensure the safety of all tourists in Egypt.
A policeman has been killed and more than 300 others injured in the latest clashes between protesters and security forces in North Egypt. Unrest has gripped the city of Port Said since a Cairo court issued death sentences on 21 people for the deadly soccer riots in February last year. The latest street battles broke out when word emerged that 39 defendants had been transferred to prisons outside the city. People in Cairo also took to the streets demanding retribution for victims in the riot. A court hearing on the case is expected on Saturday. Turning to Kenya now, the country's Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission says it's ready for Monday's general election. However, senior police officers now say they have received information that some people are planning to harass the public by masquerading as police officers. Kofa Marangi reports.
In just a few hours, Kenyans go to the ballot. It is an election that is being watched closely, especially after what happened after the 2007 election, where thousands were killed and hundreds of thousands others displaced after violence erupted in various parts of the country. Police now say security has been beefed up around the country, with over 90,000 security officers deployed to various parts. However, information that some people believed to have acquired police uniforms or planning to disrupt the voting exercise, as well as harass Kenyans, have not been received well.
We are taking this election quite seriously, and that is why we don't want to leave any information not past members of the public, so that you don't see us taking serious adverse actions and then you start getting surprised. We know our officers. We have officers in charge of those officers in areas that we have deployed them, and therefore we are able to tell who is not a police officer. And we are also saying that the manner of conduct of police officers will be such that they are just supposed to give protection to members of the public. We don't expect them to harass people, and therefore persons who may come up in uniform and try to attack members of the public, obviously, because we have gotten that information, and we cannot send out a panic unnecessarily. And that is why we are saying that with confidence, knowing what we are saying. We are in charge of security in this country, and therefore we have a responsibility to protect you.
Kenya's elections body, IEBC, however, says they are all set for the election, with election material having been delivered to almost all polling stations.
We are required to announce the results within 7 days of the polling. The Commission, however, has no intention of delaying the results, and within 48 hours, we'll be able to see clear leads through the provisional results transmission, which will come through the mobile system and which will be relayed in real time on our screens at the Bomas of Kenya Tallying Center.
All eyes are now on Kenya, but so far, observers say they are hoping a repeat of what happened in 2007 will not happen after Monday's election.
So we hope that if the campaign has been peaceful, that there will be peace on election day, and that the candidates and the leaders will make sure that the supporters are able to accept the results, and if they have real problems, they will take the problems to court.
This is the first election for Kenyans under the new constitution that was promulgated in August 2010. Kofam Renje, CCTV.
Now we've got the latest on the violence in Kenya's elections. 4 Kenyan police officers were killed on Monday by a suspected secessionist group, the Mombasa Republican Council, that had early threatened to disrupt the general elections in the coastal region hours before polls started. Now let's take a close look at the candidates in Kenya's presidential race. Uhuru Kenyatta is a front-runner in Kenya's presidential election. However, controversy surrounds his candidacy as he faces crime against humanity charges related to post-election violence in 2007 and 2008. Jane Keel reports.
It is also my democratic right to present myself to Kenyans. They know full well the issues that I am confronted with. If they so choose to elect me, it means they have confidence in my ability to discharge my duties as president while still handling the case.
And so far, that case, the crimes against humanity charges at the International Criminal Court appear to have little or no effect on Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta's second attempt at Kenya's presidency. And with pollsters placing him neck and neck with his closest challenger, Prime Minister Raila Odinga, the possibility of a Uhuru Kenyatta presidency is real.
Uhuru has come of age. Uhuru is his own man, and Uhuru is determining his own destiny.
And it is a destiny that seems to have historical ties even with his ancestry, given that he is a son of Kenya's first president, Jomo Kenyatta. Born in October 26, 1961, his name Uhuru means freedom in Kiswahili. For most of his early life after school, Uhuru would focus on running the vast family business empire whose interests spanned from hotels, schools, farming, banking and real estate, choosing to join active politics in the 1990s during Kenya's clamor for multi-party politics. And with the endorsement of Kenya's former president Daniel Arap Moi, Uhuru would rise to the top leadership of the party his father founded and become the man the former president would want to succeed him in 2002, despite the fact that many viewed him as a political novice. But this was not to be.
I accept the choice of the people, and in particular, now concede.
As a euphoric wave for change swept Uhuru to a distant second, forcing him to concede defeat to Mwai Kibaki. For Uhuru, however, this would mark the beginning of his political evolution, particularly in his solid ethnic base of central Kenya, home of the Kikuyu, Kenya's largest ethnic group.
The Kikuyu nation sees in him a leader. Perhaps they are nostalgic about him and his father. Some people see the father in Uhuru.
His strong defense of his ethnic community is what landed him in trouble with the ICC during the last general election. Together with his running mate William Ruto, who was then supporting Raila Odinga, they were accused of masterminding the post-election violence that led to the death of more than 1,000 people. The two who are now running on the Jubilee Alliance deny the charges and are due to stand trial in April.
If the people of Kenya do decide to vote for me as their president, I will be able to handle the issue of clearing my name.
Both Uhuru and Ruto have made ICC an issue in these elections. So anybody voting for Uhuru votes for or against ICC. So the ICC question is either going to attract sympathy or going to attract dislike.
Still, Kenya being a country where elections are determined not by tradition or ideologies, but numbers and ethnicity, experts contend the two, who come from the largest ethnic blocs and are kingmakers in their own rights, remain a strong force to reckon with. Jin Keo, CCTV.
Raila Odinga is Kenya's Prime Minister. He's one of the front-runners in this time's presidential election. This is the third time he's running for the top seat and could be his last. Mohammed Himogi reports.
The Kenyan election, which is the first to be held under a new constitution dispensation on March 4th, pits two heavyweight Kenyan presidential front-runners. Raila Odinga, Kenya's sitting Prime Minister and son of the country's first Vice President, against the son of Kenya's first President Uhuru Kenyatta. Having tried two other times, Raila, now 68, is going for his third and likely final stop at the country's top job.
We want to end dictatorship in this country. We want to have an end to corruption in this country, and we want to put an end to the grabbing of public land.
Odinga, often known by his first name Raila, is a Luo from Western Kenya and had spent almost 8 years in detention without trial for treason charges. Known to be the consummate campaigner, Raila is never finished with the dynamics of politics.
If Raila wins and the court hegemony is established, and the coalition between the Kikuyu and the Kalenjin breaks aside, they're most likely not going to aggress one another. So the important thing in this election is the speed with which the regime consolidates itself and the hegemonic power of that regime is made manifest.
Odinga was a contender in the 1997 elections where he came third. In 2002, Odinga backed Kibaki, the outgoing president, who then won against Odinga's rival Uhuru Kenyatta. And in 2007, he ran again against Kibaki, this time in a closely contested poll and lost, whereupon his supporters accused Kibaki of having rigged the result.
Last time we did not go to court because we did not have confidence in the judiciary, which was very partisan. But now we have a judiciary which is user-friendly, which can be relied upon to get justice out.
Odinga has been a member of parliament for Nairobi's Langata constituency since 1992. Kibera slum forms a significant part of the larger Langata constituency where Prime Minister Raila Odinga represented in parliament for 20 years. Kibera remains the largest slum in Nairobi and is a place where Prime Minister Raila Odinga enjoys a huge following. In his opposition days, Odinga has been both relentless and a firebrand speaker, able to galvanize overwhelming support. Odinga, seen as largely favorable by the international community, now campaigns on the platform of change.
We need to do what we think is right for this country. People of Kenya should make an informed choice in electing their leadership.
Mohammed Himogi, CCTV.
A fleet of Chinese surveillance ships has arrived in the waters of Nansha Islands in the South China Sea. The Marine Squad left the Sanya port last Thursday to carry out regular patrol missions in the region. The Chinese authority says the mission will last 15 days and aims to strengthen China's maritime law enforcement capacity and test the patrol team's rapid response abilities. It will monitor maritime traffic safety, investigate maritime accidents, detect pollution, and carry out search and rescue work. Meanwhile, the 14th Chinese naval squad heading for Somali waters has arrived in the Pakistani port of Karachi. The anti-piracy fleet will take part in multinational exercises along with other 13 countries, including the United States and Japan. Exercise Aman 13 is scheduled to be held in Pakistan from March the 4th to the 8th and involve navies of 50 countries. It's the fourth such exercise in the Aman series, which began in 2007. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry has arrived in the Saudi capital Riyadh for talks with the Gulf monarchies on regional issues. Kerry is scheduled to meet his counterparts from 6 member states of the Gulf Cooperation Council, when meeting in Riyadh. Syria, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, and Iran are expected to dominate the talks. Several Gulf countries, mainly Saudi Arabia and Qatar, have openly taken up the cause of the Syrian unrest and called for rebel forces to be armed in their battle against the President Bashar al-Assad's government. But Washington has been vetoing arms shipments and preventing GCC countries from helping the rebels. Meanwhile, GCC countries have voiced concerns of U.S. policies regarding their neighbor Iran and its nuclear program. On the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, Gulf states have expressed frustration at U.S. failure to pressure its ally Israel into forging a two-state solution. Turning to the Syrian crisis now, activists in Syria say opposition militants have seized a police academy outside the city of Aleppo. They say the capture of the army outpost came after days of fighting that killed 150 government soldiers, while they sustained heavy casualties. Video on a social media network shows what the activists say that there are people attacking the academy on Saturday. According to a US-based website, the al-Qaeda commander Mokhtar al-Mokhtar, who was reportedly killed by Chad's armed forces in Mali, is alive. The site is a monitoring service that tracks online militant forums. An unidentified participant posted a message saying al-Mokhtar is alive and well and leading the battles himself. The message also says al-Mokhtar will soon issue a message confirming the news. Al-Mokhtar is the presumed mastermind behind a mass hostage-taking at an Algerian gas plant in January. His death has been reported several times in the past. On Saturday, Chad said its forces had killed him during clashes in northern Mali. A French soldier has been killed in northern Mali during exchanges with Islamist rebels. A statement posted on the French president's website said a soldier from the 1st Parachute Chasseur Regiment was killed late on Saturday. France's defense ministry has confirmed the death, saying the 26-year-old was shot during an assault on a hideout in the mountains near Algeria. He's the third French soldier to die in French campaign in Mali. You're watching NewsHour on CCTV News. Coming up. More than 15 years since Hong Kong's return, we speak to one of the longest-serving CPPCC members from Hong Kong. And talks between Greece and its international creditors continue, with creditors focusing on the possibility of public sector layoffs. Now let's continue our coverage on China's annual political season. While the MPC has just held a news conference outlining its agenda, the first plenary session of the 12th CPPCC has entered its first day of group discussions. The country's top political advisory body will examine and approve reports from the Standing Committee. Members of the CPPCC have also related news in their own fields of work. Ye Peijian, CPPCC member and Commander-in-Chief of China's Chang'e 2 and 3 spacecraft, says the launch of the Chang'e 3 is scheduled in the second half of this year. The spacecraft is to realize China's first soft landing operation on the moon and will examine the landform and the geological structure of where it lands. Another member, Wu Guanghui, also Vice CEO of the Commercial Aircraft Corporation of China, says the structural design of the China-made Airbus C919 is complete. The model will be a strong competitor with the popular Boeing 737 and Airbus A320. Its maiden flight is set for next year. Tang Changhong, chief designer of China's biggest independently made large transport plane, says the aircraft has taken its pre-flight tests. China is now among few countries that are able to produce large aircraft. Since Hong Kong's return to the motherland more than 15 years ago, the relations between this special administrative region and mainland have been evolving. There have been many debates about what one country, two systems really means and what being a part of China means for both Hong Kong and mainland. My colleague Tian Wei has spoken to one of the longest-serving CPPCC members from Hong Kong during the current CPPCC session. Annie Wu shares her views on some of the crucial issues regarding the realities of and prospects for Hong Kong's relationship with the mainland.
Let's take a look at Hong Kong. Hong Kong just celebrated its 15th anniversary since it's coming back home, becoming part of China as the special administrative region. On the other hand, people have also seen the changes going on in Hong Kong, politically, economically. So how do you see now Hong Kong's relations with the mainland?
I feel when Hong Kong was returned to the motherland back in the year 1997, we were very excited, and we actually participated in the ceremony on the eve of the 30th of June and the morning of the 1st of July. Since then, personally, I have actually set up a foundation as an NGO together with the support of our first chief executive, Mr. Tung Chee-hwa, who is now the vice chair of the CPPCC, to encourage young students, sponsored by us together with the parents, to come and take a look in our motherland. So for 1997 until about 2008, we have personally, together with our friends and some funding, sponsored more than 10,000 students to come over to Beijing. Most important is, as you say, to go and take a look at the flag raising ceremony at about 4:35 in the morning in Tiananmen Square. Because in Hong Kong, when we talk about Hong Kong, is a lot of young people have no idea about our history and our culture. And for them, once in their lifetime, to stand in the Tiananmen Square to see raising the national flag, I think will change the whole outlook and to understand they are part of the whole country and they are Chinese. And I think this is very important now for Hong Kong, because after 15 years, we need to educate our younger people, understand they are born in Hong Kong, but they are Chinese, but they are serving our country and trying to do something for Hong Kong.
There are enormous amount of political debates going on right now in Hong Kong about where is it heading and its nature of relations with the mainland. Will these political debates eventually lead to real development in Hong Kong and a more matured relations between Hong Kong and the mainland?
I feel when you just read Hong Kong through the media, because you can read Hong Kong through the news and the TV, is only representing a very small minority of people voicing about Hong Kong. The silent majority that I get to know day to day, they are very stable. They would like to see Hong Kong moving very closely with a lot of things in the mainland, because they know without the country supporting Hong Kong, Hong Kong will not have a stable economy and we don't have a good future. I think Hong Kong, we are moving in the right direction. Direction in terms of the understanding to work closely with the mainland, to understand how we can develop a much better Hong Kong in the years to come with the support of the central government, and also how we should really help our young people to understand their position, not only working in Hong Kong, but under the position that we can become more international. It takes time to talk to the major silent majority, but also it takes a different approach, and not just to be very well known or very, I say, high sounding in the media.
Well, some would say, you're saying Hong Kong is getting ever closer to the mainland because you are a member of the CPPCC and you are supposed to be quote-unquote friendly with the Chinese Communist Party.
As a member of CPPCC, I feel this gives me an opportunity to understand the concern and also the support that the central government gives to Hong Kong. So in a way, a lot of friends in Hong Kong ask me how they can work with us closely to be helping Hong Kong to work more in terms of the positive attitude with a lot of issues. And I think it gives me an advantage to explain to my friends in Hong Kong to understand the issues and understand how we can work more, I would say, effectively. And I feel it's very important now that we are also from Hong Kong, we understand what is happening, the economic development in the mainland, because they are moving faster than Hong Kong. So that's what my message to my friends in Hong Kong is: we have to work closely with a lot of development. We also have to respect a lot of the issues.
During this year's National People's Congress, the new Chinese government leadership is going to be elected. This afternoon, we will continue our talk with Annie Wu about the new challenges the new leadership faces. So please stay tuned. Well, CCTV News has begun a special interactive activity during the MPC and CPPCC sessions on Sina Weibo, which is China's leading social media website. At no other time in history have the Chinese people so openly declared their dreams. Millions inside China are nurturing their China dream, while millions outside of China are fascinated by life in China. You can share your China dream with the world and inspire others online. So please join us by following @CCTV News on Sina Weibo. Again, it's @CCTV News on Sina Weibo with a double hashtag China Dream. You can also upload your video and text us about your own China dream to our website, english.cn.tv. You're watching News Hour on CCTV News. Junfeng joins us now with the latest in biz. Good afternoon, Junfeng.
Good afternoon, Panda. Well, many people have a China dream, but their stocks dream may be broken now. Asian stocks fell as China property companies slumped after the government here called for measures to cool prices. Chinese stocks had a really tough start of the week, falling more than 2% Monday morning. The Shanghai Composite Index lost about 2.9% to wrap up the morning trade at 292 points, breaching the key 2300 line. Property developers and banks were dumped after the State Council called for higher down payments and interest rate for second home mortgages. China Vanke, the biggest developer, dropped by a daily limit of 10%. Minsheng Bank tumbled more than 5%. Adding oil to the flames was a slowing growth in the nation's services industries, actually at the slowest pace in 5 months. This, combined with the forecast missing manufacturing PMI, which was released last week, it gives people an impression of this country's economy actually is not that strong. China's legislators will begin an annual conference tomorrow, during which new government leaders and new economic targets for the year will be announced. And now let's take a quick look at the trading figures of Asian stocks at the moment. Well, the Chinese State Council said it could increase required down payments and loan rates for buyers of second homes. But the new measures looked tougher and coverage of mainland cities expanded, which sent signals to the market that the government was further tightening policy. But the new measures didn't give a timetable for the expansion of property tax on home buyers. Let's take a closer look at how major property markets in China are reacting to the new curbs.
Pudong Real Estate Trading Center saw visitors gathering after the government unleashed a new round of property prices curbs with a potential increase in property tax. But the center failed to say when the tax will increase. In Nanjing, not far from Shanghai, local realty agents were overworked during the weekend. A condo tour made up of some 3,000 prospective home buyers arrived in Nanjing, split into 11 teams to visit 53 housing projects. Sample rooms were packed with visitors. Many of them expect to see the property tax increase soon, and they wanted to move before that happens.
So I want to close the deal before the new 5 property measures take effect in Nanjing.
Many realty agents also took advantage of market sentiment to seek clients before any significant increase in home prices, as the government could increase down payments and loan rates for buyers of second homes anytime soon, which may dampen the demand on the second-hand housing market and increase the cost of new projects. Xia Cheng, CCTV.
Let's go to Europe. Talks between cash-strapped Greece and its international creditors are continuing. In the coming week, creditors will focus heavily on the possibility of public sector layoffs. On Sunday, the European Commission, the European Central Bank and the International Monetary Fund held preliminary talks with Greek finance officials but reached no agreement. The creditors insist civil service jobs cuts are needed as part of a reorganization plan to make Greek state more efficient. They would also like to see progress in privatization and tax collection. The talks are expected to last a week and will affect the disbursement of $2.8 billion in financial aid to Athens in March. Well, that's the business news update from me, Choe Hun, and hand back to Pendle.
Thank you very much, Jun Feng. Indeed, you're watching News Hour on CCTV News. More to come. We'll have the latest action from the CBA playoffs, with Xinjiang Flying Tigers hosting Liaoning Leopards, with neither side wanting to lose the third crucial game. And China's high-end jewelry market appears to be picking up after last year's slowdown, with modern design one factor driving sales. Britain's Queen Elizabeth has been admitted to hospital after suffering from a stomach infection. According to Buckingham Palace officials, the Queen is being treated at King Edward VII Hospital in London as a precaution, while she is being assessed for symptoms of gastroenteritis. The 86-year-old monarch is said to be in good spirits. All official engagements for the week, including the Queen's trip to Rome, will either be cancelled or postponed. A palace spokeswoman said the trip may be reinstated at a later date. Just a day after Venezuela's Vice President Nicolas Maduro said Hugo Chavez had been receiving chemotherapy while recovering from a severe respiratory infection, hundreds of opposition supporters are taken to the streets of the country's capital, Caracas. They want the government to provide complete details about health of the ailing president. Chavez supporters staged their own rally in another part of the capital, paying their respects to the president's health. The president has been receiving treatment at a military hospital in Caracas following his return from Cuba on the 18th of last month. Officials have sent mixed signals about Chavez's condition, sometimes saying he's recovering and at other times saying he's battling for his life. Jonas joins us now with the latest in sports. Good afternoon, Jonas.
Afternoon, Pendung. Thank you very much. We do begin this afternoon with the latest from the Chinese Basketball Association playoffs. After the first two games of the best-of-5 opening round, there was only one series that was deadlocked at one game apiece, that being the set between Xinjiang and Liaoning. So plenty on the line on Sunday night. Neither side could afford to lose the crucial third game of the series. And Xinjiang got off to a big lead in this one early on. They would be led by their veteran guard, Zhang. We can roll these highlights, guys. Zhang Qingpeng would go off early in the first Q. He'd nail the triple here to put the Flying Tigers up by a dozen, and Zhang will continue to help his team late in the first Q. This time the solid drive, the nice little finish there. Xinjiang took a 13-point lead into the second Q. Shirel Zhang took charge in the second for the Tigers. His pick and roll with Monk Batir led to the easy layup. Xinjiang up by a dozen, and Li Zhang will continue to shine later on. Abusing the Liaoning defense, the local product had 28 points. And midway through the second, James Singleton going to finish off the alley-oop. Xinjiang rolling. The hosts keep the pressure on the third Q. Liaoning just could not keep pace. Vaughn Wafer throwing that one down. He had 23 points for the night. Xinjiang up by 22, and they would dominate in the final quarter. Shirei remained hot, dropped two straight triples to seal the win. 112-89 the final. Xinjiang take control. They now lead the best-of-5, 2-1. Meanwhile, the defending champion Beijing Ducks taking on Guangzhou, with the visitors took the initiative first as Gary Forbes was rolling. The huge dunk there, the finish there, and it would be Guangzhou with a 9-0 run. Beijing forced to deal with it early on, but Stephon Marbury, they're going to cut into the lead, steps back, knocks down the jumper there, cuts the gap to 2. And Randolph Morris had a big game for Beijing. He would knock down consecutive points thanks to those jumpers, and Morris would go on to score a game-high 38 points for the Ducks. He would also add 10 rebounds. Beijing would take a 4-point lead heading into the second half. Jump now all the way to the fourth Q, and a beautiful pass from Marbury going to set up Morris for the throwdown down low, and Beijing would indeed take this one. 101-87 the final. They sweep the Golden Lions to reach the next round. Elsewhere, 7-time champion Guangdong hosting Zhejiang for the third game. The hosts also had a chance to sweep. Zhejiang, though, in top as Quincy Doobie, the league's top scorer, out with injury. And Guangdong's Yijian Lian would take charge in this one. The big Chinese, the league's Chinese MVP, would have a big night. The Southern Tigers were in total control early on, and Zhejiang would attempt to chip away at the lead. And Tong Hai would help Zhejiang stay in this one. He's going to go coast to coast here to cut the lead to 13 heading into halftime. but the regular season champs would not let this one slip away. Yi would lead the way with 26 points, 7 boards. The Southern Tigers sweep Zhejiang thanks to a 109-86 Game 3 win. And they were also breaking out the brooms in Shandong on Sunday night. The hosts swept the Dongguan Leopards to move on to the semifinal round. It was import guard Pu Jita leading the way. 28 points, 7 assists, 110-95 the final. Shandong knock off Dongguan in 3 straight games, and they punched their ticket for the round of 4. Well, we turn now to the NBA, where despite playing the whole season without former MVP Derrick Rose, the Chicago Bulls have managed to stay competitive. That is due in part to a commitment to Tom Thibodeau's defensive system, and also in part to the play of forward Joakim Noah, who earned himself an all-star nod this year, and he also picked up his 3rd career triple-double the last time out. He would try to match that effort as the Bulls were hosting Brooklyn, and Noah will be doing his thing off the little screen and roll. He'd be able to help Chicago reach a little 10-point deficit early on. Noah would help the Bulls end up tied after the first quarter with the Nets. The two-handed cram helping his case. The game close early, buckets hard to come by. The big rejection there by Jimmy Butler by Gerald Wallace. Great anticipation by the Nets forward. Despite that, Chicago would go on a big run in that one. They would stretch it out between the second and the third quarters, and the Bulls would outscore their opponents 19-0 and take a 17-point lead midway through the third Q. Carlos Boozer going to finish it off there, and then Joakim Noah doing his thing, Kirk Heinrich, I should say, doing his thing. He'd help Chicago stay ahead, and there's Noah doing his thing down low. He had 21 points, 10 rebounds of the night, and then Jimmy Butler, the hammer. The huge alley-oop finish there. The Bulls would go on to the 96-85 win.
Like, I do this all.
Elsewhere around the association, Philadelphia snapped a 7-game losing skid. They knocked off Golden State. Monte Ellis scored 6 of his 23 points in OT as Milwaukee downed Toronto. And Portland beat Minnie to earn only their 2nd win in nearly a month. The 2013 Haikou World Snooker Open has come to a close in China's southern province on Hainan Island, and Mark Allen, who crushed Stephen Lee 10-1 in last year's final, was the center of attention. He was attempting to defend his crown in the championship match on Sunday. He was taking on Matthew Stevens, and Allen, who played brilliantly to beat John Higgins in the semifinal round, will get off to a great start in the final. He would storm ahead thanks to breaks of 48, 52, and then 93, and he would take the first 3 frames to jump out to a commanding lead early on. Stevens would lead 55-0 in frame 4, only for the Irish ace to respond with a superb 58 clearance for a 4-0 advantage. But Stevens would take a scrappy last frame in the session of the first half, keeping his hopes of a comeback alive. They would be 6-3 at the interval. The 35-year-old Welshman appeared on course to win the first frame of the evening session, at least until he got in a little bit of trouble. It all came down to a safety battle on a blue, and Allen would romp in a brilliant long pot. What a great shot that was. He would clear to snatch it all the way. The lefty went on to grab the 13th frame to make it 9-4, and then with 1 frame standing between him and back-to-back wins, he would get it done to clinch the race to 10, and with the victory, Allen becomes the first player to take the same world ranking event back-to-back since Higgins captured consecutive Welsh Opens in 2010 and 2011.
I'm obviously very, very happy to win and retain my title. I don't think the snooker was maybe as good as what I'd hoped. Matthew made it very, very hard for me. His safety was very, very good. I didn't feel like I got into much rhythm. I didn't score very heavy, but the result is all that matters, and I'm very, very happy to win.
Well, that'll do it for us tonight here on News Hour. Back with you again tonight, 7:40 p.m. Beijing time. But for now, back to you, Pandang.
Thank you very much, Jonas, indeed. And now on to jewelry. The high-end jewelry market in China appears to be picking up after last year's slowdown. Traders at the China International Gold and Jewelry and Gem Fair in Shenzhen say the Chinese love the modern design is one factor in encouraging sales.
Sapphires, emeralds, rubies and diamonds twinkle and shine at the 11th edition of the fair in Shenzhen. Rings, necklaces, bracelets and other dazzling pieces are also on show. Pearl jewelry is always popular in China and in the Asian markets. Following an economic slowdown in China last year, exhibitors believe their business will get back on track in 2013. Among them is owner of Zorab Creations, Henry Stemboen. He says China is the way forward for his business.
I think it's one of the best markets to be in today, China, because first of all, as a population, if you take of China, is a huge, huge market, which is the other half of the world. Second, they are into upper level, into the designing, into fashion, they are so up to date that is unbelievable.
Mavis Puon is general manager of Dame Bijou based in Hong Kong. She says her business have felt economic slowdown in the Chinese mainland.
Last year, it took our clients longer to consider buying our products. They slowed down their pace when it came to opening up a new retail shop, which affected our business. However, in general, our turnover is still increasing, but slower than before.
Traditional jewelry still dominates the fair, but stones such as agate and a more expensive opal are also being introduced into the Chinese market. Chairman of jewelry distributor Gemsong says he thinks the Chinese market is opening up to new gems and stones.
The taste of the Chinese is very interesting. While they are very comfortable with jade and know jade quite well, again, they're just learning about other gemstones. But there are gemstones that are historically part of the Chinese culture. For instance, in Buddhism, it's primarily amber, coral, and turquoise.
The fair features over 380 exhibitors from 10 countries and regions, including China, India, Sri Lanka, Thailand, and the United States. Jiwei, CCTV.
That's it for this edition of News Hour. Before we go, let me remind you again that CCTV News has begun a special interactive activity during the MPC and CPPCC sessions on Sina Weibo, which is China's leading social media website. You can share your China dream with the world and inspire others online. So please join us by following @CCTV News on Sina Weibo. Again, it's @CCTV News on Sina Weibo with a double hashtag China Dream. You can also upload your video and text us about your own China story to our website, english.cntv.cn. I'm Pan Dong in Beijing. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Hui Autonomous Region. It is one of China's most drought-stricken areas. Lots of rural locals here have inadequate access to drinking water. In recent years, NPC deputies from Ningxia-Hui Autonomous Region submitted several proposals on water shortage, and the national legislature asked related ministries to help tackle those problems. Lawmakers have been pushing forward the implementation of a water pipeline construction project. They conduct field studies, collect public opinions, and submit motions. Through their efforts, a drip irrigation system has been built in the area, making it an efficient way to use water while saving labor. Now, planting and irrigation are becoming easier for farmers. But most importantly, clean tap water is accessible to locals. For Wang Ruilian, the water issue is no longer a pain.
I'm glad that we now have tap water. I've realized my biggest dream.
The villagers have said farewell to the hard times when they could not find enough water to drink, but problems still exist. For those who live in poverty, the price of paying to connect the neighborhood pipeline to their individual homes is still too costly for them to afford. Local government is thinking about providing a subsidy to support the poor. For the delegation from the Ningxia-Hui Autonomous Region, promoting the water conservation irrigation system would top the agenda of this year's discussion. Su Yuting, CCTV.
This year, youngsters born in the 1990s have been involved in the local people's congresses and have handed in their proposals. Wang Chen from Beijing Normal University submitted to her local People's Congress proposals which focused on public housing projects and educated young people who move in search for work. Yang Jing in the city of Guangzhou, a migrant worker herself, is striving for the rights of the people. It will last 12.5 days and end on the morning of March the 17th. The deadline for delivering motions is at noon on March the 11th. By Monday, Fu Ying says around 3,000 journalists from around the globe have registered at Media Center. Regarding China's defense policy and expenditure, the MPC spokeswoman says that China's defense policy is peaceful and defensive.
Military expenditure is a question that is often raised. China is such a large country. If it cannot protect itself, it won't be any good to the international community. There are many lessons that a country with a weak national defense will be bullied. Chinese people understand this very well. So we need a stable national defense. A China with a stronger national defense will help maintain the peace in Asia as well as the world. China sticks to building a peaceful national defense. It is a defensive one. The building of the national defense in China is to protect itself, to protect safety, and is not a threat to other countries. China's national defense policy has also contributed to the peace in the region.
More migrant workers and women as well as young people have been elected to the 12th National People's Congress, which is China's top legislature. Meanwhile, few government and party officials have won places.
Altogether, 2,987 deputies have been elected to the 12th MPC. The total number stays the same as the 11th MPC, but 2/3 of the deputies were elected for the first time. 1,027 deputies were re-elected. This accounts for 34.38% of the total. Moreover, 1,042 or 34.88% of the deputies are government officials and leading
A press conference is held ahead of the opening of the 12th National People's Congress on Tuesday, announcing the meeting's agenda. At least 50 people have been killed and 150 others wounded as a suspected suicide bomber attacks Shiite Muslims in Karachi. Kenyans prepare to vote in the country's general election with warnings some people are planning to harass the public. And the talks between Greece and its international creditors continue, with creditors focusing on the possibility of public sector layoffs. Hello there, welcome to News Hour on CCTV News, live from Beijing. I'm Pan Deng. The preliminary meeting of the first plenary session of the MPC 12th National People's Congress has been held. It has elected a Presidium and Secretary General for the 12th MPC. It has also examined and approved for the meeting's agenda. After the plenary meeting, the Presidium held its first meeting. Zhang Dejiang, Liu Yingshan, Li Jianguo, Wang Shengjun, Chen Zhangzhi and Yang Junqi have been elected Executive Chairman of the Presidium. A press conference for the first session of the 12th National People's Congress has been held at Great Hall of the People in Beijing this morning. Newly appointed MPC spokeswoman Fu Ying has met the press and briefed them on the lineup of this year's MPC deputies. Fu Ying outlined the conference agenda. She says the first session of the 12th MPC National Committee has finished its plenary meeting and the first Presidium's meeting. This year's conference is scheduled to open on Tuesday morning at Great Hall of the migrant population, including better education for their children. Another young deputy, Sun Xiaolei, is a senior student at Fudan University in Shanghai. He sought public opinion via Weibo, a leading Chinese social media website, and interacted with them online to gather their opinions. A lot of these young deputies are paying close attention to China's democratic construction. Many hope these young people can not only bring vitality but also effort to the country's development. CCTV News has begun a special interactive activity during the MPC and CPPCC sessions on Sina Weibo, which is China's leading social media website. At no other time in history have the Chinese people so openly declared their dreams. Millions inside China are nurturing their China dream, while millions outside of China are fascinated by life in China. You can share your China dream with the world and inspire others online. So please join us by following at CCTV News on Sina Weibo with double hashtag China Dream. Again, it's double hashtag China Dream. You can also upload your video and text us about your own China story to our website, english.cntv.cn. We will bring you more stories on the two sessions in today's program, including exclusive interviews with the heavyweight figures and hot topics on the agenda. So please stay tuned to NewsHour. But for now, let's head to other news. At least 50 people have been killed and 150 others wounded as a suspected suicide bomber attacked Shiite Muslims in Karachi. And Kenyans prepare to vote in the country's general election with warnings that some people are planning to harass the public. Turning to Pakistan now, death toll of the blast in Karachi on Sunday has...
Party cadres down about 7 percentage points from the 11th MPC. 610 professionals are among the deputies, up 1.2 percentage points from the previous MPC. A total of 401 workers and farmers have been elected deputies, up 5.18 percentage points from the 11th MPC. The number of female deputies have risen to 699, accounting for 23.4% of the total. About 83% of the deputies are graduates of junior college or higher.
China's top lawmaking body has examined and approved batches of legal motions in the past 5 years. The work provides an effective guarantee for maintaining the order of China's market economy and social order. The 11th MPC and its standing committee examined 93 draft laws from 2008 to 2012. 86 of them were approved. The laws closely related to ordinary people's life, including social insurance law, tort liability law and election law, and the public has been able to participate in the legislation process through various channels. The 11th MPC Standing Committee has opened 48 draft laws for public opinion during its term in office. More than 300,000 people contributed millions of opinions promoting socialist democracy and scientific legislation. The current legal system is composed of about 240 laws, 700 administrative regulations, and 8,600 local regulations. MPC deputies have the right to submit motions and a proposal to ensure that the government is running in accordance with the will of the people. For delegates from Ningxia Hui Autonomous Region, what they care about is solving the water shortage problem. Su Yuting reports.
This is the central part of Ningxia